what's going on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal Spaz Phoenix, the YWC Reality Check, and we got a few things to talk about today, but before I get into anything, if by chance you are listening to this on Saturday before Saturday night's main event, I want to tell you two things. First of all, go check out our friends at the Wrestling for Life Network. I don't know whether it's KJ, whether it's Big Nick, whether it's Ringside or Anthony that are doing their watch-along tonight, but they do really cool watch-alongs. Go check them out. But after Saturday night's main event, hop over to my buddy Jake DeMarco's channel, Countdown Ended. He and I will be doing a live post-show if you're not able to join in with us live on the night. Watch out into your feeds. You will be getting the audio replays on all of my particular platforms, the YouTube, the Rumble, the Spotify, the iTunes. I would love to see more people over on Rumble. I'm just saying. But yeah, during the show, check out the Wrestling for Life Network. But after the show, we want you back. Me, Jake, we're going to be doing a post-show over on his channel, Countdown Ended. Look it up. Sub to Jake if you haven't already. He's a good dude. And I think the link is already up. If it's already up, I'll put it in the comment section or the description down below. But now we got to talk TNA, and no, I'm not venturing back into doing proper weekly TNA reviews. Don't have the time, and we got other stuff on the horizon. But they did their first live episode this past week. I'm going to get this wrong, but I believe it's their first live episode of Impact in 8 years. Really significant. Obviously fallout from Genesis as well. Some surprises and heavy NXT. I don't want to call it infiltration. It's not an invasion. They have a working relationship, but there's several stories going forward. So I want to take a minute, and I may do this again when they go live again next month, and they're doing it from Full Sail as well, which is going to be a lot of fun. I may do a quick roundup of the live show again. Don't expect this week to week. It's not going to happen week to week, because week to week the spoilers are out there and all the conversations are already had. But I want to start off with the first bit of news that came out of this past Thursday's episode of Impact, and say that I don't have very much to say about the Mance Warner debut / him and Steph Delander being a thing, because apparently they're a thing in real life, / him just being handed the Digital Media Championship after the PCO fallout and all that kind of thing. I don't really have much to say. I think what PCO did is hilarious. I think ultimately, especially when you look over into other toxic companies, like all the people that are trapped in their situations in AEW right now, I think if you're being fucked with by your boss, by your contract holder, etc., a little bit of speaking out, a little bit of performative acting out isn't necessarily the worst thing. It isn't something that really should be punishable. Do you want to avoid situations like this entirely? Do you want to not have the guy think he needs to leave on a bad term? Obviously. But I said it with Punk. I've said it with Ray Phoenix. I've said it with Ricky Starks. I've said it with Aleister Black. If people don't want to be there, it is what it is. That being said, they had to do something with the Digital Media Championship if they weren't going to flat out just remove it. So they played it off as Steph Delander, his on-screen wife, got the belt in their divorce. And I don't know whether she's holding it or whether she's giving it to Mance, because Mance made his debut and confronted, what's his name? Thank you, Brain. Sami Callihan. So are they going to fight over it, or are they just going to fight and Steph Delander is going to be the champion? There have been female digital media champions in the history of TNA as well, so both are quite possible. Speaking of females, that's not a very good transition at all. Tessa Blanchard had a speech, and I'm not even going to give you the body of the speech. It was all, her family dates back, and I think they were in Texas, I'm not sure, but her family dates back farther than WWE has been existing. So, it's Blanchard country, it's my world, you're all living in it. Very, very, I don't want to say typical, but stuff you would say to rile up a crowd. The crowd was booing her. The crowd was booing her since she came back, because cancel culture is a thing. Now, but here's the thing, though. The boos that resound for Tessa Blanchard have got to be coming from 3 different places. There's people that genuinely think she's a horrible person and never think she should have a job again. You people are terrible. There's other people that are made nervous by those people and are like, I better boo this person or it's going to make me look bad. Now, you're not a bad person, but you're also kind of a pussy. And there's people that are actively and excitedly participating in her heel persona. A couple of guys in the front row at last Thursday's show had signs saying that I'm a Tessa Blanchard guy, which is absolutely fine. I don't really care what she came out to say. What I care is the way that she presented herself. Whatever she had to say, she said it loudly. She yelled it over the fans. She didn't do the typical, oh, they're booing me, I'm going to stand here and roll my eyes and hold the microphone up in the air. She just spoke over it. And it was sort of this weird, yeah, I'm here, I'm not going anywhere, you're not going to cancel me, get as mad as you want, I'm staying, go fuck yourself thing. And I think that's really cool, because if you haven't been following me that long, or if you've stumbled upon me relatively recently, because I have had an uptick in subscribers, and thank you very much, buckle up and sit down. I don't like cancel culture. Cancel culture shouldn't be a thing. I don't like you, therefore you shouldn't be able to make a living. Shouldn't be a thing. Now, if you attack your company, if you leave a company and attack them on the way out, do they have the right to say, no, we don't want you back? Absolutely. It's why I don't think PCO will ever be back. It's why I hope Nikki Bella does not come back to WWE. It's why, all kinds of other things. Like, I made this point early on with the Cody Rhodes thing. I said, WWE and Cody Rhodes are both going to lose something in my eyes, because you've made a point of saying that you're better than WWE because you're over here, and WWE are the ones that were in the firing line. So if you take them back, you're kind of taking some bullets in the back. Now, they've made the best out of that. Don't get me wrong. Cody Rhodes is very, very, very much proving him to be the exception in this regard. But if you burn a bridge with a company and they don't want you back, that's fine. But if a company fires you because enough fans just say, we don't like them, we don't think they should be able to earn a living, cancel culture can fuck off. It is what it is. And the more Tessa Blanchard comes out and cuts promos like this that are not necessarily based on the content of the promo, but more in the spirit and in the attitude of, guess what, you don't want me here, but here I am anyway doing my job, cutting a promo, I really like that. I hope that goes forward. I hope, as TNA is on this rise and the audience gets bigger, the audience also gets a slap in the face and says, cancel culture isn't for everybody. I thought that was really cool. Josh Alexander came out. They played it off as he was contractually obligated to be there after quitting his match at Genesis against Mike Santana, who we're going to talk about in a second, when he announced, not only am TNA's yours, you're the flag bearer, now I'm not only quitting this match, I'm quitting the company. He came out to address the crowd. It was kind of weird, because I think this is one of those moments that TNA is typically pretty good at, where somebody's sort of breaking out of character. He's leaving the company soon. He's come out to say his goodbyes to the fans or whatever, and it's like real versus kayfabe. And I think the fans were just booing the character and didn't quite allow that to happen. But now that's fine. You bought a ticket. You don't have to do what the company wants you to do reaction-wise. Don't be running in the ring or anything like that. But I think it's a little unfortunate, because I think what they were trying to do was say, the character's over, I'm on my way out, I just wanted a chance to say goodbye to everybody. Then it went to the other two members of the Northern Armory, Judas Icarus, who I've seen quite a bit in Destiny, check it out for Spaz Phoenix Bucket List, it's fine, and his partner, whose name I can never remember because I'm a terrible person, turned on Josh Alexander and said, no, you don't understand, you can't leave, and then they took him out at the knee and whatever, and Eric Young, who's been trying to get through to Josh forever and ever and ever, came out, made the save. They announced for next week that they're going to have a tag team match of the two remaining members of the Northern Armory versus the Walking Weapon and Eric Young. Very, very cool. Gives him a chance to have one more babyface match with a partner that he's probably got a shit ton of respect for, fellow Canadians and all that kind of stuff. And he's going to have his goodbye match on Impact, I believe, next week. It's going to set the Northern Armory off as a tag team and have them be heels. Have Josh Alexander turn face at the last minute, or at least drop the heel persona, so that them attacking him can still be a really cool heel move. And he said, he put them over as he was leaving, said, you're the best upcoming tag team that there is, and I guess he's falling on his sword saying, you can take me out on the way out. Eric Young being involved always gives it a little bit more extra TNA historical gravitas, whereas Walking Weapon sort of became the flag bearer. I've seen, as I said, I make the Destiny joke quite a bit. I got into going to Destiny shows right as Josh Alexander was becoming the flag bearer for Destiny, and then that was part of what brought me back to TNA in the first place, to see that very much he was becoming the flag bearer for TNA as well. So even though he's had this little heel stint at the end, they're still going to be seen as potentially toppling the flag bearer for the company. Now, whether that going forward is a Nick Nemeth, a Joe Hendry, etc., 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 is yet to be seen. Or maybe Mike Santana, because they did the passing of the torch at Genesis. But yeah, Northern Armory turns on Josh. Him and Eric Young make amends. They're going to have a match next week. The guy that beat him, Mike Santana, came out, said, I made the flag bearer say I quit. I'm the new guy. I've got my sights on other things. I'm going to be the world champion. And the push they've put behind Mike Santana is fucking awesome. But then he was interrupted by not necessarily a new star or a new surprise person, but a returning star that was only on a temporary contract last time he was there, I believe. And it was Mustafa Ali, who not only came in, cut a promo, said he was back in the company, totally ignored the fact that Mike Santana was standing there in the corner, says he's on a new campaign to himself become the world champion, and announced that he has signed a long-term contract with TNA. That's awesome. For those of you that saw his brief run when he came in, he took the X Division title off of, I think, Chris Sabin, and then I don't remember who he lost it to because I'm a terrible person. Mustafa Ali, incredibly underutilized in WWE. I'm a WWE guy, but I will call the balls and strikes when they fuck up. How they were not able to make something gigantic out of Mustafa Ali is mind-boggling, quite frankly. He's still doing this politician gimmick, which, I get it. In the States, there's a lot of salty people. People don't like losing. A lot of people are angry and frustrated in the States right now. Why not double down and utilize that frustration in a fictional form in Mustafa Ali, who did it so great the first time? He had his Secret Service people with him like he did last time, kind of like Piper Niven is doing for Chelsea Green, the current US champion on SmackDown. He didn't have Campaign Sing with him, so I don't know whether that's a thing or not, but Santana's the guy. He's grabbing the torch. Mustafa Ali makes his re-debut in the company on the back of that. Very, very excited. I'm assuming, because Mustafa Ali made his declaration of contract signing and his declaration that he wanted the world title without ever acknowledging that Mike Santana was even in the ring. That's not going to fly. If you know the Mike Santana character, that's not going to fly. The first feud is going to be Mustafa Ali versus Mike Santana, and you know what? Excuse me. That's going to be a hell of a match, or a hell of a series, or a hell of a couple of matches, or whatever. So Tessa's back and saying, fuck everybody. Josh is on his way out. He's going to put over the Northern Armory on the way out. Mike Santana's the new guy. Mustafa Ali interrupted the new guy. There's some stuff. So let's get into some history. Let's get into some NXT stuff. Let's get into the stuff that the folks on the other side are poo-pooing. Oh, WWE's going to buy TNA. No, they're not. We're just going to have some really cool interaction, which is allowed and has nothing to do with you. The first NXT championship to be defended on TNA programming was Fraxium defending the NXT Tag Team Championships against the Rascals. Before I get into anything else, if you didn't watch this match, pause this, turn this podcast off right now, go watch the match. The match is fantastic. I'm not going to try and describe it. It won't do it justice. That was great. I really said I wanted this to be uninterrupted. I wanted this to be the moment where somebody grabbed somebody else's title, because it's going to happen sooner or later, and this would have been a really cool time to do it. And I'm really, really behind the Rascals. Nothing against Fraxium, but... excuse me. Nothing against Fraxium, but the Rascals picking up the the NXT Tag Team Championships and being back in NXT, maybe in time for Vengeance Day, would be a lot of fun. It didn't happen because they were interrupted by Wes Lee, which I didn't want to happen. I didn't want it to happen because I wanted the match to exist on its own, and I thought the Wes Lee Rascals stuff was done already, because how do you, as one heel, take on a tag team because they were a trio. It's kind of the opposite of what's happened with the New Day, where I say, you know, Big E's still off with his injury and whatnot, and Kofi and Woods are going to go do their own tag team thing. How do you tell a story with one guy taking on a babyface duo? Because you don't want the babyfaces to have a numbers advantage. There's all kinds of things to come in there. But Wes Lee recently is mentoring the tag team of Tyreek Igwe and Tyson DuPont. Tyreek Igwe, I really have a hard time pronouncing his name sometimes, so if I fuck it up, you guys are going to have to excuse me. Them as a trio, as like Wes Lee being the small asshole guy with two big friends, it works. Rascals, there's only two of them. A lot of people speculated, I'm going to throw this one out to Ringsider Anthony, this might be the return of Myron Reed. I don't know whether that's going to be a thing, but they did announce later on in the night that Wes Lee will be making his return to TNA next week to take on Ace Austin. Now, I said if Wes Lee was going to come to TNA, I didn't want him necessarily going for the X Division Championship right now because it's on Moose. And Wes Lee versus Moose, I'm sure would be fine, but it's not on the top of my match wish list. I did say I wanted to see Wes Lee versus Ace Austin, so we're getting that next week as well. And if not Myron Reed, then Ace Austin, who is without a tag team partner at the moment. Our thoughts and prayers continue to go out to Dashing Chris Bay and all of his recovery. But in the meantime, while he doesn't have a tag team partner, while he's kind of trying to forge his own singles run, for him to go and team up with the Rascals for a night to take on Wes Lee and his new proteges is going to be a great six-person tag somewhere down the line. Now, does Fraxium kind of get lost in the shuffle? It's weird because Fraxium get lost in the shuffle and they won the match and they retained the NXT championships. They represented NXT and maintained those titles in the NXT camp. So hopefully they play up that side of the story as well, because Fraxium are an awesome team, Rascals are an awesome team. I want that to be a rematch sooner or later. I want to see somebody come in now and challenge the Hardys for the TNA tag titles, but that's another story for another day as well. Another interesting tidbit, and it wasn't nearly the most impactful thing of the night, Ariana Grace still maintains this non-wrestler, non-combative NXT TNA liaison role. They had her on commentary. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, and she was doing that not high and mighty, but that beauty queen, oh, I'm so elegant, all these people from NXT are my friends, whatever. And then immediately when Wes Lee comes along with his guys, are these your friends too? Well, no, this wasn't supposed to happen. Having her on commentary added just a little bit of something. It made me think, not nearly to the same stature or anything like that, but if you remember, they put people like Paul Heyman, people like Taz, back in the commentary mix when the Invasion story was happening in WWE, because you needed somebody to have the voice of the other company. Now, these two companies are not competing. I think the one of the reps from TNA, when the deal was announced, said there's nothing out there that says competitors can't cooperate, and I think that's what they're doing right now. They're striking the balance pretty well. This was the best example. Now, we've seen people from NXT come to TNA to challenge for TNA titles. Had people from TNA come to NXT to fight for NXT titles. We've never seen somebody from NXT go to TNA to try and get one to defend their titles. And I think the opposite is going to happen very, very soon, because later on in the night we had a 6-woman tag. It was Masha Slamovich, the champion, Masha Slamovich, the Knockouts champion, Spitfire, the Knockouts tag team champions, taking on their respective opponents from Genesis. It was Rosemary and the Elegance girls with the personal concierge, which is George Iceman, who's a really cool dude. Basically, it was a rematch of two matches from Genesis, like slammed into one match. It's not reinventing the wheel, but Masha Slamovich and Spitfire, they took a loss because of a distraction once again by Cora Jade. Cora Jade did not get involved in the match at Genesis. She stared down Masha Slamovich afterward, told her she's coming for her title, etc. This time, she's actually cost her a match to push that rivalry forward. So, what did we do? We brought the NXT champions to TNA to be defended. The next step is Masha Slamovich is definitely going to bring the Knockouts Championship to NXT to be defended against Cora Jade. I hope they save that for Vengeance Day. Because, sorry, this is where you got to be kind of careful with this deal and how it works out. NXT is its own thing, but NXT is still part of WWE. WWE is the larger platform, and if they're going to be helping TNA put their TNA champion on a pay-per-view stage, much the same as I hope that by the time we get to Vengeance Day, Masha Slamovich has already had a run in the Women's Rumble. The precedent has been set by Mickie James. The precedent has been set by Jordynne Grace. Masha Slamovich could do the same thing. I hope Joe Hendry does the same thing, but I also hope Nick Nemeth comes in, even though he's not the champion anymore. So, if they throw Masha Slamovich in the Rumble, and maybe she gets eliminated by Cora Jade, and then you push this rivalry even more forward, Vengeance Day, with the TNA Knockouts Championship being defended against Cora Jade, would be another tit for tat. Our tag titles were on your show. Let your women's title be defended on our show. And I'm not saying Cora Jade's going to beat Masha Slamovich, but I think it could be fun. You've got the tie-in to Roxanne Perez there. You've got the tie-in through Roxanne Perez to Bayley to Julia. There's all kinds of other characters that could get involved. Could Masha Slamovich and Jordynne Grace and the like get involved with a group like Fatal Influence? Could we have another massive 5-on-5 woman tag like we had at the ECW arena? All kinds of really, really cool stuff. But Fraxium taking the NXT titles and defending them in, I guess you would say, enemy territory, if you want to be dramatic. The opposite has to happen at some point. Masha Slamovich has to bring that title into the NXT waters to be defended, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Now, the last thing really doesn't have anything to do with NXT. Obviously, Joe Hendry got his win at Genesis. We all talked about it. I know Jake and I have talked about it on this pod. I know the Wrestling for Life guys have talked about it over there. I know even over in places like What Culture, they were talking about, okay, Joe Hendry's the guy. Joe Hendry's got everybody behind him. Joe Hendry's like Teflon. All the speculation and criticism, he's Teflon to it. But if you bring him all the way to the big dance again and have him win or have him lose again, the comparison that I made was Jey Uso. Like, how many times can you bring him to the promised land and then pull it away? He won. He addressed the fans to open up the show. He said he wanted to be a fighting champion. Santino Marella came out and said, you said you would defend that championship against anybody here in TNA or out of TNA. And I thought, okay, boom. Here's the easiest slam dunk ever. Bring in somebody from NXT to challenge for the TNA Championship on Joe Hendry, and it wasn't. It was a returning Matt Cardona. Now, they had the match. It was fine. It was more than fine. Matt Cardona and Joe Hendry are not going to have a bad match, and a world title match on weekly television to kick off your first live episode in like 8 years is a huge deal. Maybe a little bit overshadowed by the fact that JBL came in and clotheslined Matt Cardona. I'm in two minds with the JBL thing right now. First of all, he was regular WWE JBL when he showed up on Raw, which was a little disappointing. They were teasing that he was going to have a confrontation on Raw with Kazarian. That didn't happen, so that was kind of disappointing. I'm equally frustrated by the JBL thing and glad that it's frustrating me, because I think that's exactly what it's supposed to do. Like, everybody's like, oh, who's he with? Who's he with? Is he siding with this person? Is he siding with that person? I think it's going to turn out that he's not siding with anybody and he just likes fucking with people. And that could be either a disastrous story or a really cool story, depending on how they play it. But so that kind of put we're doing this again, but then again, we're supposed to be frustrated because, of course, oh my God, JBL's doing it again. The bigger thing for me, and I don't want to overlook the match because, super disrespectful to both Joe Hendry and Matt Cardona. It's weird, the conversation we're having with TNA right now. Oh, Jordynne Grace is leaving TNA. She must be going to WWE. Josh Alexander is leaving TNA. I bet he's coming to WWE. Like, we're looking for these indicators. And I think it's almost the opposite, because they have the deal with between WWE and TNA now. Matt Cardona showing up in TNA, like returning to TNA, makes me think more and more that he's going to show up in WWE because they've got the deal, and because he doesn't have to sign anything long term with them. He can do TNA stuff and be showing up on WWE as a TNA guy. If he shows up in the Rumble, there's the conversation, oh, he doesn't want to be Zack Ryder ever again. He wants to be Matt Cardona. So if he's going to be Matt Cardona in the Rumble, he might as well be Matt Cardona, TNA superstar. Like, does that make sense? It's the Dolph Ziggler, Nick Nemeth thing. Are they gonna play Always Ready, or are they gonna play Radio Silence? Are they gonna play Here to Show the World, or are they gonna play Wanted Man? Like, the very first time there was any interaction with the ladies in TNA, the commentators sort of stumbled on, okay, do we call her Dana Brooke or do we call her Ash by Elegance? And I think they kind of called them both at one point or another. Same thing when the Rascals reunited and came back to TNA for a couple of days. The name stuff is always an interesting conversation. It's one of those things that wrestling fans like to talk about. Wrestling fans like to talk about entrance music. Wrestling fans like to talk about whether there's pyro or not. Wrestling fans like to talk about whether there's LED things on the ring. And they're all the things that don't matter once the people are in the ring or the person is in the ring and the bell rings. Once the bell rings, I don't care if there's LED stuff on the ring anymore. Once the bell rings, I don't care what the music sounded like. Once the bell rings, if he's going head-to-head with somebody like a John Cena, then I don't care whether we call him Dolph Ziggler or Nick Nemeth. If he's squaring off with CM Punk, I don't care if he's called Zack Ryder or if he's called Matt Cardona. It's a conversation point to have because it's on that big, long list of these are the things that wrestling fans talk about. But caveat, these are the things that wrestling fans talk about, ... that don't really matter. I mean, they matter until they don't. I hope that makes sense. So a lot of cool things coming out of this show. Like I say, the digital media thing is weird. I don't have a lot to say about Mance Warner because I'm not familiar with Mance Warner, and they weren't super clear on whether she presented him with that belt or whether she's going to carry it herself. Steph Delander, I mean. Tessa telling everybody to fuck off was great. Josh is on his way out. Cool. Jordan Grace has already left kind of quietly. If you go on social media, you can see clips and videos of all the people backstage, you know, slamming her with cake and presenting her. They presented her with an Impact Wrestling Knockouts title as an outgoing gift, which I thought was an interesting choice. Santana's picking up the torch and running with it. Mustafa Ali is back with the company. Fraxium and the Rascals made history, even if there wasn't a title change. Wesley is going to get himself into the X Division mix representing NXT, I have to imagine. Ariana Grace she's an addition. She does add to this bond between NXT and TNA. She does contribute to that dynamic. The ladies are killing it. Cora Jade and Masha Slamovich is going to happen at some point. I hope it's Vengeance Day. Joe Hendry, under the weight of all this other news, is just launching into his title reign. Matt Cardona's back on the scene, crispy and clean, and all of this was a lot of fun. They're going to, the next time they'll be live is when they're live from Full Sail. I will definitely do some kind of reaction or roundup or something when that happens. Individual news bits Jake and I will talk about on the state of wrestling, and the next big pay-per-view they have coming up is Rebellion, which we will cover as we do. Anyways, I've rambled on for quite long enough. This is why I really, really, really need a co-host. But thank you for listening. I've been Spaz, your YWC reality chick. Subscribe up there, talk down there, start a conversation, keep all these conversations going. Don't be a stranger. I will talk to each and every last one of you later, but for right now, I am tagging out. Bye, guys.